Hey y'all, it's Mama Beth, and I'm back in the kitchen, and this is another episode of Bitchin in the Kitchen. I got something to talk about, it's on my mind. Let's talk about sexual harassment. We've been hearing a lot about this since Sunday night, since Harvey Weinstein got fired from his own company for sexual harassing actresses and employees that have worked with him over the years. Apparently, he's been paying off a lot of people for a long time. The Rap CEO and editor-in-chief Sharon Waxman published a story on Sunday night, and I'm reading this, detailing a 2004 incident in which she was given, quote, the green light to look into often reported allegations of sexual misconduct by Weinstein when she was a fairly new reporter at the New York Times. But the story never got published. Apparently they gutted it, they buried it in the back page, and then they went on. Now, she went into this pretty deep. She went to Rome and interviewed a man, let's see, his name was Fabrizio Lombardo, and apparently he worked not in film. He had no film credits, but his job was to be the pimp for Harvey Weinstein. He dealt with his women's needs, and I guess that was to pay off anyone he harassed, or perhaps find him someone to sleep with. It doesn't go into all of that, but he said himself that his job, quote, was to take care of Weinstein's women needs. Women needs? Come on. Okay, then she goes to London and she talks to another victim of his harassment who had gotten paid off and finds out that Matt Damon and Russell Crowe had vouched for Weinstein. I guess they wanted her to keep mum about it because, see, that's how sexual harassment works. You know, you've got someone, and it can be male or female, in the work environment who gives unwanted sexual advances, sexual conduct. There's a list of things that you cannot do in the work environment that constitute sexual harassment. But he's been getting away with it. And these guys, these different actors and executives, they all worked together and tried to keep him in his job and paid him off, did whatever they had to do. Well, Weinstein's company, they voted to fire him. They fired him Sunday night, and good for them. I hope nobody ever hires him again, because let me tell you, anyone who sexually harasses women or men in the office and the work environment doesn't need to have a job. They can stay at home. They can be poor and broke. I'm sure he's neither, but this just infuriates me. There are actresses and actors finally speaking out. Meryl Streep was one of them. She talking about, we've got to join together and make this stop. Now, I'm obviously a woman. I've been working since I was 14 with the public. My first job was at a nail salon. I never had any problem with anybody sexually harassing me or doing anything like that. But when I was 16, I started waiting tables. And I had a male boss who was fantastic. He was a wonderful man. I had a woman who was the assistant manager, and then the people I worked with were all great. They were good to me. But customers, however, especially in the evening, because I worked a lot of evening shifts and I worked midnight shift, overnight shift, they thought they could say whatever they wanted to me because I was a woman and I was waiting on them. I'll never forget one guy, actually, he was a little drunk, I guess, and he and his buddy both, but he looked straight at me and he said, I would just love to get into your pants. Well, I'd gotten pretty good with quips by then, and I said, I don't know why, there's already one asshole in there. Well, his buddy left me a big tip, but you know what? I've never forgotten that, and I've never forgotten how small it made me feel that he thought that he could talk to me that way. Well, now, I've had a lot of different jobs since then. I've owned my own business. I've worked in a doctor's office. While I was in nursing school, because I started out, I was going to be an RN, then I changed directions. But, I worked in a nursing home, I worked in a hospital, and there were a lot of places, not absolutely every place, but a lot of places that I worked where I had to deal with sexual harassment. When I worked in the nursing home, there wasn't a large staff to take care of the patients. And as part of my job, you give baths. Well, we had one patient who was missing part of his leg and he needed other treatment as well. But I had taken him into the shower room, and I was being professional. As a nurse, you do that. And I was a CNA. And before I knew it, he had me pinned up against the wall, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs, rape, rape, rape. And finally some other people came in, but if they hadn't, I was 18. I'm 5'10". Okay, I'm a big girl. He could have easily overpowered me. He was overpowering me, and he could have raped me very, very quickly, and there would have been nothing I could do to stop it because physically he was stronger than me. Now, that's a physical assault, but I've also had emotional and verbal assaults with sexual harassments, and it honestly shook me up worse, I think. When you go to start a job, and like at one place that I worked, I was working for a radio station, and it was one of the first that I worked at. The morning guy, when I went in, there was no one else but me and the manager, who also was the morning DJ. And I was supposed to do news and then go on and do sales for the rest of the day. And I think it was my second day on the job, he told me that if I wanted to keep this job and I wanted to have the good accounts and keep working, that I was going to have to see what he was working with and take care of him. And hand to God, he takes his junk out and puts it right there on the board. And I didn't know what to do. I was honestly jaw dropped, and I turned around and walked out. Of course, I lost my job because there was nobody above him to talk to. And I didn't know what to do. I was young, and I had never had anything like that happen to me. But, you know, then as time went on, in each job that I've been to, that I worked for, you know, I always try to carry myself very professionally. I don't make sexual jokes. I don't talk about my sex life. You know, I try to maintain myself as a lady and a professional whenever I'm in a job. You have to. Women can't get away with locker talk like men do. You hear men in every part of the work atmosphere. It seems like they get together and, you know, there are crude comments and jokes and things like that. Even our president has had a scandal with Billy Bush talking about, you know, things he shouldn't have been and degrading women. And it's not okay for him to do it. It's not okay for anybody else to do it. But, you know, as I went along, you know, from working my way up and getting to larger companies, it was still happening. I would still have comments made, or, you know, I had a woman, I got her fired. I had a woman take me into her office. I was over one of the radio stations, sales managing over one station. And then we had she was over all of the stations, and there were quite a few. And then we had a GM, but she took me into her office. I'd been working there maybe 7 months, and told me that, you know, she found me very attractive, and that if I wanted to keep my job and my salary, I should consider dipping my toe into the lady pond. Well, I looked at her. I was astonished. I said, how, as a woman, can you be saying this to me? You know, this isn't right. And she said, well, I'm the boss. I'm used to getting what I want. I get what I want. And I said, well, you're not getting this. And I walked out. And that's when I quit. And I did call corporate, and she was let go. But there was another incident when I was younger, and I was working. I ran my dance studios, and I took a summer job in a trucking company, and I was just doing bills and paperwork and things like that. The owner of the company, his wife worked with me. His wife worked in the office, and I liked her so much. I liked him before this happened. You know, they were very nice. They were the age of my parents. So I didn't understand why when I would work at about 4:30, when everybody's supposed to leave at 5, he would put a whole bunch of work that he had held from his desk onto mine, and he'd say, I need this done today. And I would end up having to work over. And I did not realize that he was grooming me. He was leading up to hitting on me. Well, the day came when he came over, and I'm trying to get my stuff done. I want to get home. I've got my child at home, she was at my mother's. But this day is in such detail because it shocked me so much. He started rubbing my shoulders and asking me if I liked it. And I said, no, I really, you know, I'm uncomfortable with this. And he said, oh, I'll make you more comfortable. And he unzipped his pants. This man was in his 60s and I was in my early 20s. I said, stop it. And I grabbed my purse and I got the hell out of there. And when I got home, I told my husband, and my husband tried to joke it off. He said, oh, well, you're pretty and guys hit on you. I'm like, no, that's not right. What he did was not right. And so what we ended up doing was calling the Virginia Department of Transportation and telling them about that and telling them about some other things that were going on in that office. They came in and did a check, because they do that. They come in and they check all the records to make sure you're doing everything right. Well, they found enough stuff to put him in jail for 6 years, and I don't feel bad about it a bit. And you can call it revenge, you can call it justice, whatever, but I was just glad that, you know, something happened to him, because he traumatized me, and I was traumatized by that. Still today I get a knot in my stomach from it. It makes me want to throw up. And then, you know, I had a boss at a group of radio stations that I worked for that decided to give me a call on a Saturday night. Now, we worked a lot of Saturdays. You know, there were Saturdays that we would have events. I would have to go into the office and write up contracts, you know, do paperwork, whatever. Sometimes record commercials. But I was at home, and this was in the evening. This was like 7:30 at night. And I was getting ready to go out with friends. We were going to sing karaoke. And, you know, I had myself fixed up, ready to go. And then I get this phone call, and he said, you know, he needed to come by and drop off paperwork for me to have by Monday. And I'm like, okay. And he shows up to my house and he's drunk, and he barges in and he tries to have his way. And I physically threw him out. If he had not been drunk and, you know, off balance, I'm not sure that I would have been able to get him out of the house. But I'm just thankful that my daughter wasn't there, because she would have been traumatized as well. I did talk to his boss, and I talked to the owner, and they said, well, since it happened off the clock, we're not sure what to do. Well, I tell you, it happened off the clock, but it sure did affect me Monday through Friday from then on until I left the company. And there is no excuse for sexual behavior in the office. There is no excuse for sexually harassing someone, male or female. It's wrong. And if we don't start reporting it and talking to lawyers and the police and making people who do this responsible for their crimes, and it is a crime, then, you know, it's going to continue. It's going to keep happening. Nobody's going to learn any lessons unless they're punished. Now, I looked up so I would have some actual facts, because I do try to have some facts in these. The sexual harassment policy of the U.S. Department of State. Now, this you can Google. When it comes right up when who do I report sexual harassment to? Sexual harassment is sexual pranks or repeated sexual teasing, jokes, or innuendo in person or via email, verbal abuse of a sexual nature, touching or grabbing of a sexual nature, brushing up or standing too close against a person, repeatedly asking a person to socialize during off-duty hours when the person has said no. If someone asks you out on a date and says, you know, I'd like to take you out to dinner, that's fine. But if they keep on and on after you've said no and you've made it clear, then that is sexual harassment. Okay, giving gifts or leaving objects that are sexually suggestive, repeatedly making sexually suggestive gestures, making or posting sexually demeaning or offensive pictures, cartoons, or other materials in the workplace, off-duty, unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature that affects the work environment. So what happened to me when he showed up at my house affected my work environment. That was considered and is considered sexual harassment that involves the workplace. A victim of sexual harassment can be a man or a woman. The victim can be of same sex as the harasser. The harasser can be a supervisor, coworker, other department employee, or a non-employee who has a business relationship with the business, with the department. Okay? Knowing what sexual harassment is will help you identify it. Now, if you are a victim of sexual harassment, if you've got this crap going on, make notes. Okay? You need to write down time, date, what happened verbatim as best as possible, who was around, who witnessed it, and if possible, get a statement from them. Then you need to go to the police, you need to see a lawyer, you need to talk to in Virginia and West Virginia, we have employment offices. There are different state and federal employment offices. They will help you. Social services may also help you. You need to report it. That's what I'm saying. Take notes. Make sure you've got all of the facts and all the details. Report it and prosecute it. Talk to a police officer. They'll help you. They'll tell you where you need to go. If you've got a friend that's, in legal counsel, or, works for the police department or the sheriff's department, or, whoever, if they're in law enforcement, they will have everything you need. They should know where in your district, in your place that you live and you work, what it takes. Don't let anyone get away with treating you less than equal, or treating you like a sexual object, or using raises, or you're keeping your job, or bonuses. That should never be brought up ever as a way to sexually harass someone. That is so wrong. And I wish that I had reported more when it happened. I wish that I had gone to the authorities. Stop it, boys. I wish I'd gone to the authorities, and I wish I'd prosecuted them. They deserved it. And, now I look back and I'm like, I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't step up to the plate. But you know what? Anybody that comes to me and tells me that they're being sexually harassed in their workplace, I'm helping them. I'm in a position now to where I can. In my job as a therapist, we talk about rape. We talk about sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a power move. It's all about power. Them having power over you. Using what power they have to get sexual gratification or have sexual power over you. Rape is the same thing. Rape is not about having sex. It's about having power over someone. We know that it's a crime. It's not always a crime of passion. It's a crime of power. It's intimidation and it's abuse. And sexual harassment is on that same level. It's a way to sexually take your power away and bring you under someone else and be a victim. Don't be a victim, okay? Be a survivor and then go prosecute them. And I hope you win a bunch of money, and I hope you win your court case, and I hope, like Harvey Weinstein, they lose their job too, because it takes a real son of a bitch to treat someone like that in the workplace. We all need our jobs. What we don't need is to be sexually harassed. Now, I love you. You love you. Take care of yourselves. Bye.